Anyone? Yes.
I noticed how much I didn't learn
Okay.
in school.
Okay, so you notice how much you didn't learn in school.
Yeah.
Okay. You second that? All right. Cool. Other folks, as you were talking with folks and sharing your cards. Yes, ma'am. Jessica. What's that? So you learned a lot in school. That's cool. Cool. Good. Yes, ma'am. Okay, TV, media, and movies have a lot of influence. All right, a lot of people are shaking their heads on that. I'm going to take your hand, sir, and I'll take you.
I've kind of learned that I really didn't know much good or bad about disabled Americans, and I haven't really heard anything good or bad.
Okay, so you didn't hear anything good or bad, just wasn't something that was talked about,
Right.
I assume. Okay, cool. Yes, sir.
Basically, if we're looking at this, I'd say all my personal experiences, overall, I put pluses on all of them, but when I look back at it, I'd say I have all positive personal experiences, but certain things are either clarified or brought to a bigger light when I look back at how else it was affected by other things.
Okay. All right, so even your personal experiences, when you reflect back, they've been influenced by other things as well. Okay, cool. Yes, ma'am.
I noticed that even on the categories where I kind of learned maybe things from the personal experience, interactions with people was different positive, whether I learned that one.
Okay, cool. So in your personal experience, whether you learn bad things about them or not, in your personal experience, they were generally positive. They're just people. Okay, cool. Yes, sir.
There's a category on there that isn't necessarily a race-based one, but I think would have been so that's a little useful to have now,
Okay.
which is the homosexual.
Okay. Yep. And to be quite honest, there are a lot of other categories that I could have put on this card that, given the size of the card and the dimensions, I couldn't necessarily do. But I hope that what we did put on the card raises some core questions that we can address in some very sophisticated ways. Yes, sir.
Oh, I picked up, or was reminded that, to the degree you feel positive or negative about a certain culture, is affected a lot by, how much you're actually interacting with them.
Okay.
If they're a group that if you have a daily interaction with, you live amongst them, you're going to feel much more strongly either way than you would if you know little about a culture.
Okay. So the amount of interaction you have has a great deal to do with whether you feel more positive or negative. Either way, whatever interaction you have weighs heavily on how you might feel about that group. Okay. Cool. All right. Cool. So thank you for sharing the things that you had on your card. I appreciate that. I do want to ask one other level of conversation, and I want to ask how you felt when I asked you to fill out the card. Were there any emotions that stirred for you as you were going through filling out this card? Were there emotions that came up for you? Yep. Okay, so it brought back memories about things you felt really strongly about. Okay. Good memories, bad memories, how would you classify those memories? Okay. All right. Cool. Were there anyone else have any emotions as they were filling this out? And what were they? I guess I should not just ask that close-ended question, but what were those emotions, Kevin?
I guess I can feel guilt again a little bit on the Native American side.
Okay.
I did live up in northern Wisconsin, which is very reservations there. And I lived in Chicago, so what I really loved to do when I was in Chicago was to go to different neighborhoods. But I didn't know very much about it. Because even when I went to the reservations, they were still, if you went into a casino, that wasn't
Right.
And I said if you went to one of those powwows, that was more of a show than knowing who was there and
Okay. So one of the feelings that came up for you was guilt. Okay. Other folks. Yes, ma'am. Pain. Okay. Okay. Sexually harassed by African men. Okay. Other folks. Yes, sir.
I would say one was conflict. I had a fair amount of negative experiences working in the construction business with, group, and just from the standpoint of the displacement of jobs in general. And my conflict is that I really like to consider myself not prejudiced against any group per se. But at the same time, if I'm being honest with myself, I feel pulled to that, all of these people have been displaced because this group came in and took a lot of jobs. So, it's kind of an internal identity conflict thing.
Tony, that's the most honest thing I have heard in the last 6 months. Thank you. I mean, if we're honest with ourselves, all of us, there is a part of us that has a problem with somebody else. And sometimes it's not something we can identify. It's not something I can just put my finger on. But I can, if I'm honest, I can say that there is a part of me that's upset about something, about another group, right? Typically, what happens a lot of times, and I don't know if you've noticed this in our political discourse, that resources seem to be shrinking. There aren't as many jobs. There's not as much money. There's not as much blah, 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 blah. And when those things start to happen, we start to entrench back to things that we think are our core values. When resources get tight, that's when we start arguing over resources. And typically, we get our anger and our fear displaced. Because it's interesting that we would be upset with we can even talk about the term that people use in the popular media of illegal immigrants coming to get jobs. But illegal immigrants aren't making people pay them. So who should we really be upset with? Right? But we don't get to see the decisions that are made in HR up in the boardrooms. We get to see the effects of those decisions every day. And so they play the two of us against each other so that they can continue their puppet show. But that sounds crazy. I don't want to go too far down that path because that'll lead to some other discussions. I want to stay focused on what we've come to talk about today. So I want to hit this next set of topics and get back to talking about this video clip. All right? And as soon as my thing does what it's supposed to do, we'll be good. All right, there we go. So we started talking about the 6, the 13, and the 22s that show up in the video. Whatever you have on your card, again, it is not your fault, but it now becomes your what? Responsibility. And I would say that places where you have zeros, that's an opportunity to learn about something. It's an opportunity to grow as an individual. And places that you have minuses, I'd have you double check those minuses. And those places that you have pluses, I would say check those too.